The storm on the planet Virella was stronger than anything most beings had ever seen. The wind tore across the land like a wild beast, lifting sand, stones, and pieces of metal into the air. The sky flashed again and again with long blue lightning. It was a night when no one dared step outside, but Lyra had no choice. Her home was shaking from the storm, and she needed to secure the outer shields before they broke. Lyra wrapped a cloak tightly around her small frame and pushed open her door. The storm almost threw her backward. She grabbed the door frame and forced herself out. The wind howled past her ears, and the sand cut against her skin. She moved slowly toward the control panel near the wall of her home. Suddenly, she saw movement far away through the thick storm. She froze. At first, she thought it was an animal, but the shape was too tall, too wide, too human. The lightning flashed, and for a moment she saw it clearly, an enormous figure moving clumsily across the rough ground. Her heart jumped. Humans were rare on Virella. Most aliens avoided them. Some feared them, some hunted them, but Lyra had never seen one in real life. She watched as the giant figure stumbled. He used one hand to hold his side as if in pain. The storm pushed him sideways, and he fell onto one knee. Even from far away, she could feel the weight of his fall as the ground seemed to shake. Lyra looked back at her small home. It was barely big enough for her. It definitely wasn't big enough for someone his size. She knew that, but she also knew she could not leave him outside in a storm that could crush metal ships. She ran back inside and grabbed her small lantern. Then she pushed through the wind and hurried toward the fallen figure. As she got closer, she saw his size more clearly. He was massive, almost twice the height of a normal human, and wide, like a mountain. "Hey," she shouted, fighting the wind. "Can you hear me?" The man lifted his head slowly. His face was covered in dust and bruises. His breathing was heavy, like every breath hurt. He blinked at her, as if he wasn't sure she was real. "Alien?" he asked, weakly. "Yes," Lyra said, "and you need to get up. You will die out here." "I can't," he whispered. His voice was deep but tired. "My legs, they won't move anymore." Lyra looked back at her home again. It was small. The doorway was narrow. He would barely fit, even if he crawled. But she didn't care. She placed her hand on his arm. It was like touching a stone wall. "Get up," she said firmly. "Lean on me." He almost laughed. "I'll crush you." "Then crawl," she said. "But you are not dying in this storm." Some part of her wondered why she was helping him. She could have closed her door and waited for morning, but something in the man's eyes told her he had suffered enough, and no one deserved to die alone in the storm. With great effort, the man pushed himself up. Lyra guided him, step by heavy step, toward her home. Every movement made the ground shake beneath his weight. The wind pushed them, and twice the man nearly fell again, but he kept going. Lyra kept supporting him. When they reached the door, she realized her biggest problem. He was far too large to fit. The man looked at the doorway and shook his head. "I told you, your home is too small." Lyra took a deep breath. "It will be a tight squeeze," she said, "but come in." For a moment he stared at her, surprised by her determination. Then he bent down, lowering himself to his hands and knees. His shoulders scraped against the doorway. The frame creaked under his weight. Finally, after a painful struggle, he managed to force himself inside. Half of him was still outside when the wind slammed into his back. Lyra pushed with all her strength. "Move. The storm is getting worse." With a final powerful pull, he dragged himself into the house. As soon as he was fully inside, Lyra slammed the door shut. The storm pounded against it, but the house held. The man collapsed on the floor, breathing hard. He looked around the tiny room. Everything looked fragile next to him. The furniture shook as he breathed. He barely had space to move. "You saved me," he said quietly. "What's your name?" Lyra asked. "Rhett," he replied. "I was running from people who want me dead." Lyra's eyes widened. "Why?" Rhett lowered his head. "Because I am not normal. They changed me, made me bigger, stronger, too strong." Lyra felt a cold shiver. She now understood why he looked the way he did. Outside, the storm roared louder than before, and somewhere far away, she heard a sound that made her blood freeze. An alarm, the kind used for searching dangerous fugitives. Rhett looked toward the window. His expression was full of fear and anger mixed together. "They are coming," he said. Lyra suddenly understood something. Saving him was only the beginning. The storm finally started to calm, but inside Lyra's tiny home, the tension felt even heavier than the wind outside. Rhett lay on the floor, taking slow breaths. The floor panels underneath him bent slightly with each inhale. Lyra watched him carefully, unsure if he would break the house just by shifting his weight. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Only the low rumbling of the storm filled the quiet room. Lyra stepped closer and handed him a cup of warm water. Rhett lifted it carefully between two thick fingers. The cup looked as small as a toy in his giant hand. He drank it all in one gulp. "Thank you," he said softly. His voice was deep and rough, like someone who had spent too much time running, fighting, or both. Lyra nodded. "You said people are hunting you. Why?" Rhett hesitated. His eyes shifted toward the small window where flashes of lightning still glowed. He didn't look scared of the storm. He looked scared of something far worse. "I used to be normal," he said. "Normal sized, normal life, a simple job in a human colony, nothing special." Lyra sat on the floor across from him, waiting. "Then one day," he continued, "an alien ship landed near our colony. They weren't friendly. They grabbed people, including me." His jaw tightened. "They took us to a secret lab. They ran tests that no human body should survive." Lyra's eyes widened. "Tests? What kind?" Rhett looked down at his huge hands. "They wanted to make humans stronger, taller, more durable. They forced growth injections into us. Energy serum, muscle and bone My body kept growing. I didn't stop. I still don't think I've stopped." Lyra felt a chill. "How many humans were there?" she asked. 30, Rhett whispered. "Only 2 of us survived the experiments. My friend Cade, and me." "Where is your friend now?" Rhett's face darkened. "They killed him the day we tried to escape." The room fell silent. Even the storm outside seemed too quiet for a moment. Lyra pressed her hand to her mouth. "I'm so sorry." Rhett shook his head slowly. "Cade helped me get out. He held off the guards so I could run. I didn't want to leave him, but he pushed me out of the lab, told me to survive." Lyra could see the pain in his eyes, the guilt, the weight of being the only survivor. "So you ran into the storm," she said softly. "No," he said. "I ran for days, through rocks, sand, caves. I kept going until I reached this region, but the storm hit before I could find shelter." Lyra now understood. Rhett wasn't just lost. He was running from an organization capable of terrible things, and they wanted him back. A loud boom outside made both of them jump. Lyra rushed to the window. A bright light flashed in the distance. "That wasn't lightning," she said. Rhett's eyes sharpened. "It's them. They track energy signals. My body gives off too much energy because of their experiments. They can follow me anywhere." Lyra felt her chest tighten. "Then we have to hide you. Now." Rhett looked around her tiny house. "Hide? Lyra, look at me. I barely fit through your door." But Lyra was already moving. She lifted the rug from the center of the room and revealed a square wooden panel. "My father built an old storage pit under the floor," she said. "It's not big, but it's the only hidden place we have." Rhett raised an eyebrow. "Lyra, I don't think I can fit in a pit made for storage boxes." "We don't have a choice," she said firmly. He looked at her determination and gave a small smile. "You remind me of Cade, always stubborn." Lyra knelt beside him. "This isn't the time to joke. Move." Rhett pushed himself forward with difficulty. The house creaked loudly. Lyra pulled open the wooden floor panel, revealing a dark space below. Rhett looked down. The space was tiny, maybe enough to hide his torso but not his entire body. "Just try," Lyra whispered as the light outside grew brighter. Rhett lowered himself. His shoulders barely passed through the opening. The wood strained. He had to pull in his chest just to fit. "Hurry," Lyra whispered. "They are close." Rhett forced himself deeper, using sheer strength to wedge into the pit. Half of his giant body disappeared underground. Lyra grabbed a blanket and draped it over the part still visible. Then came the knock. Not gentle, not human. A metallic echo shook the entire home. Lyra's heart pounded. She walked to the door, trying to look calm. She opened it slightly. 3 alien enforcers stood outside. Their armor glowed with silver lights. Their tall helmets reflected the stormlight. "Resident Lyra," the leader said in a cold, robotic voice. "We detected a powerful energy signal in this area. A dangerous escaped subject has been tracked here." Lyra acted confused. A dangerous subject? In this storm, no one could survive out there. The enforcer scanned the area with a glowing device. "The signal leads to your home. Allow us to enter." Lyra stepped back, pretending to be hesitant. "My home is very small. There is no one here but me." The enforcer pushed past her anyway. Lyra's heart raced. Rhett's breathing was loud, too loud. The blanket over him trembled with every breath. The enforcer walked toward the center of the room. His boots stopped right above the rug, right above Rhett. Lyra held her breath. The enforcer tilted his head. What was that sound? He asked. Lyra acted fast. She pointed to the wall. The storm damaged my pipes earlier. They keep shaking. My home is old. The enforcer paused, then slowly stepped back. We will continue searching the area, he said. If you see anything unusual, report it immediately. I will, Lyra said with a steady voice. They left. The moment the door closed, Lyra dropped to her knees, shaking. You saved me again, Rhett whispered from below, his voice trembling. Lyra closed her eyes. No, she said softly. This is only getting worse. For a long moment after the enforcers left, the only sound in Lyra's home was Rhett's heavy breathing from beneath the floor. Lyra sat beside the open panel, trying to calm her racing heart. Her hands trembled. She still felt the cold presence of the armored soldiers in her home. She still heard their boots, their metallic voices, the threat in their words. They will come back, Rhett whispered. They always do. Lyra looked at him. Only his upper chest and giant shoulders were visible above the storage pit. His face was partly hidden in the shadows, but she could see the worry in his eyes. You can't stay here, she said. Not after this. Rhett nodded slowly. I know, but I can barely move. They kept me in a lab for months. I escaped only yesterday. Lyra placed her hand on the floor, thinking. They said they detected your energy. Does that mean they can follow you no matter where we go? Not always, Rhett said. The energy in my body spikes when I'm stressed or scared. When I come down, it becomes weak, harder to track. If I rest for a few hours, maybe I can control it better. Lyra let out a breath. Then you need time. But we don't have much. The enforcers are patrolling the village now. Rhett shifted his body slightly. The wood groaned underneath him. I will break your home if I stay in this hole much longer. Lyra stood up. Then let's get you out. She helped him climb out, though she could barely offer any real support because of his massive size. As he pulled himself free, dust and wooden splinters fell everywhere. The floor shook under his weight again. Rhett managed to sit upright. Even sitting, his head almost touched the ceiling. This place is too small for you, Lyra whispered. This whole world is too small for me, Rhett replied. But before they could talk more, something outside made Lyra freeze. A new sound, a deep, vibrating hum. Rhett tensed instantly. That's their scanner drone. Lyra rushed to the window and peeked through a crack in the curtain. Her blood turned cold. 3 floating drones hovered above the village, glowing red. They moved slowly, their sensors sweeping the area like searching eyes. On the ground below, more enforcers walked between the homes, scanning every doorway, every shadow, every sound. They brought the hunters, Rhett said quietly. The drones never miss. Lyra's breath caught. We have to hide you somewhere stronger, somewhere they won't think to look. Rhett shook his head. No place here is safe. They know the village is tiny. They will search every house. Lyra paced the room, her mind racing. Then we have to leave the village before they search every home. Rhett looked at her in shock. Leave, Lyra. The storm outside is still dangerous. Yes, she said, but staying here is worse. Rhett studied her face. Why are you helping me? You could hand me over and save yourself. Lyra felt her throat grow tight. Because you are not a monster. You didn't choose this. And because no one helped my brother when he needed help. Rhett slowly nodded, understanding her pain. But the sound outside grew louder. The drones were approaching her house. Lyra grabbed a cloak and threw it over Rhett's shoulders. We leave now. Through the back. Rhett tried to stand. His huge frame scraped the ceiling. He bent forward and moved slowly toward the side door. Every step shook the house. Lyra opened the back door quietly. The storm had calmed but not fully stopped. Strong winds still whipped dust across the village. The sky glowed a dark, angry red. Stay low, she whispered. Rhett nodded. They slipped out. Lyra walked ahead, guiding him through narrow alleys behind houses. Rhett tried to crouch, but even crouching, he was taller than many dogs. His huge form cast long shadows in the dim light. Suddenly, a bright red beam swept across the ground. Down, Lyra hissed. Rhett pressed his giant body against a wall. They both held their breath as a drone passed overhead, its sensor lines scanning the ground. The beam moved closer and closer until it stopped right at Lyra's feet. She froze. The drone paused. Its red eye blinked, then it turned away and floated onward. Rhett exhaled a slow breath. That was close. Too close, Lyra whispered. They continued moving toward the edge of the village. Lyra knew a small path behind the old storage barns. If they made it there, they could reach the forest. But as they turned the corner, Lyra suddenly grabbed Rhett's arm and pulled him back. An enforcer patrol stood ahead, 5 armored figures, scanning the area. "We can't go this way," Lyra whispered. Rhett looked behind them. 2 drones were floating closer. They were trapped between hunters and scanners. "What now?" he asked. Lyra's eyes darted around. Then she spotted something, a narrow water canal that ran between houses. It was small and mostly dry. A normal person could walk through it easily. A giant cannot. But there was no other choice. "Rhett," she whispered, "you have to go into the canal." He looked at the canal, barely wider than his shoulders. "Lyra, that's too small even for a normal man." "You said your energy drops when you calm down," she said. "If you hide in the canal, the scanners might miss you." Rhett hesitated. "I will get stuck." "Better stuck than caught," she said urgently. "Go." With a deep breath, Rhett lowered himself slowly into the narrow canal. His shoulders scraped the stone walls. His legs barely fit. The canal groaned and cracked under his weight. Lyra covered the entrance with old boards and mud. The drones floated closer. Their red sensors scanned the canal area. Lyra stood in front of it, pretending to fix a broken pipe. A drone hovered inches from her face. She kept her head down. Rhett didn't move a muscle. The drone scanned again, then turned away. The patrol walked past her and continued down the path. After a long minute, Lyra lifted the boards. "Rhett," she whispered. To Giant Eyes looked up at her from the shadows. "You saved me again." He whispered. She reached down and touched his shoulder. "We're not safe yet, but we will be." Above them, the drones turned back, and this time, they were scanning faster. The drones were scanning faster now. Their red lights cut across the village like sharp blades. Every second the search grew more aggressive. Lyra felt the pressure tightening around her like a noose. Rhett was still half stuck inside the narrow water canal. His huge body pressed painfully between the stone walls. Dust and small rocks fell around him every time he tried to move. "We have to get you out of here," Lyra whispered urgently, "before those drones come back." Rhett grunted. "I told you, I barely fit. I don't know if I can get out quickly." "You have to," she said, "because if they find you, I can't stop them." Rhett pushed with all his strength. The stone cracked loudly. For a moment, Lyra feared the noise would attract the patrols, but the storm winds covered the sound. After a heavy struggle, Rhett managed to free himself from the canal's tight grip. He climbed out, breathing hard. Lyra pulled his arm. "Come, we can't stay in the village anymore." They moved fast through the winding back paths. The storm wind had become calmer, but the sky was still dark. Flashes of blue lightning traveled across the clouds, lighting their way for seconds at a time. Behind them, Lyra could hear the drones returning. Their humming sound echoed like angry bees. "They know you're close," Lyra said. "They always know," Rhett replied. At the end of the village stood a small wooden fence. Beyond it began the dark woods, a thick forest, known for strange creatures and shadows that moved on their own. Many villagers stayed away from it even in daylight. Rhett stared at the tall black trees swaying in the wind. "You want us to go in there?" "Yes," Lyra said. "It's the only place the drones will not enter. Their scanners don't work well inside those woods." Rhett tilted his head. "Why? What's inside that even they fear?" Lyra looked at the forest. "Things that don't like machines." A distant roar echoed through the trees, deep and heavy like an ancient creature waking from sleep. Rhett swallowed. "Great, so now we run from soldiers and monsters." Lyra gave him a weak smile. "Welcome to Virella." Together, they climbed over the wooden fence and entered the dark woods. The moment they stepped in, the air felt colder. The trees were tall with twisted branches that blocked the sky. Strange glowing insects floated between the leaves. The ground was soft and covered with thick roots that looked like they could move. Rhett walked carefully. Every step he took sounded loud in the quiet forest. The wooden floor in Lyra's home had creaked under his weight. But here the earth itself seemed to groan. "Try to step lighter," Lyra whispered. "I'm trying," Rhett said. "My body is not exactly built for light steps." Lyra led the way through a narrow path between giant tree roots. The glow from the insects provided just enough light to see, but the deeper they went, the darker it became. Strange noises echoed from the shadows, clicking sounds, low growls, soft whispers. Rhett gripped his hands into fists. Lyra, what lives here? Different things, she said quietly. Some harmless, some not. Most stay hidden unless they smell fear. Well, that's just perfect, Rhett muttered. They moved deeper into the woods. The path began to slope downward into a valley. The sound of rushing water echoed somewhere far below. Suddenly, Lyra stopped. Rhett froze. What is it? Lyra raised her hand, telling him to stay silent. A shadow moved between the trees. Something large, a creature with bright yellow eyes. Rhett tensed. Tell me that's harmless. It's not, Lyra whispered. It's a night beast. The creature stepped closer. Its body was huge, almost as big as Rhett but leaner, covered in dark fur that blended with the night. Its teeth glowed faintly in the dark. Its breath came out like smoke. It growled, low and angry. Rhett stepped protectively in front of Lyra. Run, he whispered to her. I'll hold it off. But Lyra shook her head. No, it's attracted by movement. Don't run. The beast moved in closer, sniffing the air. Its golden eyes locked on Rhett. It senses your energy, Lyra whispered. Your size, it thinks you're a threat. Rhett didn't move. He held his ground. The beast growled again, rising on its hind legs. Lyra's heart pounded so hard, she thought the beast could hear it. Then the creature lunged. Rhett moved faster than Lyra expected. His giant arm swung outward and smashed directly into the beast's side. The impact sent the creature crashing into a tree with a loud crack. The beast roared, furious. It charged again, faster this time. Rhett grabbed its neck with both arms. The beast thrashed violently. Its claws tore into Rhett's skin. Blood dripped down his arm. But Rhett didn't let go. With a roar of his own, he lifted the beast off the ground and threw it into a cluster of thick roots. The creature yelped, scrambled to its feet, and ran deeper into the trees. Silence returned. Rhett gasped, holding his bleeding arm. That thing was strong. Lyra hurried to him. Are you hurt badly? No, he said. Just scratches. I've survived worse. Lyra tore a strip from her cloak and wrapped his arm. That was brave, she said softly. But you have to be careful. The serum that made you strong also made you unstable. Rhett nodded. I can feel it. My body. It heats up when I fight, like something inside me wants to explode. Lyra looked scared. That's what they were trying to create. A living weapon. Rhett sighed. And I ran away before they could finish the final test. Lyra froze. Final test. Rhett nodded. If they catch me, they will force me to complete it, and I don't know what I will become. Before Lyra could respond, a faint red glow appeared above the treetops. The drones. They had followed them to the forest's edge. Lyra's face paled. The drones are scanning the forest border. They won't come inside, Rhett said. Maybe not, Lyra whispered, but the enforcers will. Rhett's jaw tightened. Then we need to find shelter deeper inside the woods. Lyra nodded. There is an old observatory deep in the forest. Nobody goes there. It's abandoned and unstable, but it might hide you from the scanners. Rhett stood up. Lead the way. Lyra turned toward the deeper woods, but behind them, the night beast's roar echoed again. Only this time, it wasn't alone. The storm grew stronger now, and the wind hit the cabin like angry hands trying to break inside. Daniel stood near the window, watching the trees bend in the fierce wind. Beside him, the alien woman Lyra looked calm, almost too calm, and Daniel felt there was something she was not telling him. Inside the cabin, the strange blue lantern flickered again, but this time the light did not stay steady. It pulsed, bright then dim, like a heartbeat. Daniel stepped closer, wanting to touch it, but Lyra held his wrist gently, shaking her head slowly. Not yet, she whispered, her voice soft but filled with warning. Why? Daniel asked, feeling confused. Lyra turned away from him and walked toward the door, pressing her hand against the wooden surface, as if listening to something outside. For a long moment she said nothing, and the storm's roar filled the silence. Then she finally spoke. They are searching for you. Daniel felt cold fear crawl up his spine, even though the room was warm. Who is searching for me? He asked, his voice shaking a little. Lyra looked into his eyes, and Daniel could see her fear clearly now. Not humans, she said quietly. Not creatures of your world. Daniel felt his heart pound harder, and he took a step back without meaning to. He wanted to believe she was joking, but her face told him she was not. Suddenly, the lantern flashed bright blue, lighting the whole cabin for a second. Salira grabbed Daniel's arm and pulled him toward the back wall. "There is no time," she said. "They can sense your presence through the storm." Daniel wanted answers, but he could hear something outside, a low humming sound. Not from the wind, not from thunder. It sounded like machines moving through the air, slow and heavy. His breath caught in his throat as the sound grew louder. Salira pressed a hidden panel on the wall, and a small wooden door slid open, revealing a dark passage. Daniel stared in shock, not understanding how such a thing could exist in such an old cabin. "You built this?" he asked. "No," Salira replied, "but we must use it if we want to survive this night." The humming sound outside changed, turning sharper, more focused. Daniel felt the cabin floor tremble, and he realized something big was landing nearby. Salira pushed him gently toward the hidden passage, her voice firm now. "You are not safe here," she said, "and once they find you, they will never let you go." Daniel swallowed hard, fear and confusion mixing inside him. He walked into the dark tunnel, the walls cold and smooth like metal. Salira followed behind him, sliding the secret door shut as the cabin outside shook harder. The humming sound became a deep metallic thud, like giant feet stepping onto the ground. Daniel whispered, "What are they?" Salira answered in a trembling voice, "Hunters." The tunnel grew darker as they moved forward. Only the faint blue glow from the lantern Salira carried lit the way. Daniel kept glancing back, waiting for something to burst through the wall. Salira whispered again, "Do not stop, and do not look back." But Daniel could not help himself. Something inside him knew this storm was not normal. This was not an accident. They had come here because of him, because of what he carried inside him. Salira seemed to sense his thoughts. "We will talk when we reach safety," she said softly. "But remember this, you are not the person you think you are." Daniel froze, staring at her in shock as her words echoed in the dark tunnel. Salira continued walking, her lantern glowing brighter now, as if reacting to her words. The storm raged above them, but the real danger was following close behind, and Daniel realized he had only seen the beginning of the truth.